Hello, how's it going, guys? Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Des. Hi, Ben.
Hey,
Great to be back at
Hello.
my second Future Trends Coin Bureau webinar, first one of 2025.
Nick and Ben, I got a very important question to ask you guys. Right now, we are seeing that the crypto market is seeing a significant decline. How do you interpret the market negative sentiment right now? Do you think this is a prolonged bear market, or do you think this is just a temporary correction?
Okay, I'll go first. Look, there's obviously concerns around macro mostly now that's come out this week. But more recently, I think it's just macro-related, concerns, more specifically related to whether we're going to see any, rate cuts from the Fed. Came down from expecting 4 last year to expecting only 2 at the beginning of this year. And then we had the non-farm payrolls come out yesterday, and it seems like it's dropped to a 1, only potentially 1, cut this year. And I've seen some reports from Bank of America that we could even see none. So there's this renewed concerns that inflation is still being sticky, and as a result, from a macro front, risk assets are kind of repricing, which Bitcoin is, of course, in that bucket. But I definitely don't think it's a bear market. I don't think we're going into a bear market. I think there was some much needed profit taken, and I think there's now a period of consolidation. I think there's also in a bit of a wait and see approach to see what happens when it comes to the Trump's term, right? Because there's obviously a lot of hype that's been around potential policy changes. But these we'll only see exactly what they are post-election and post-inauguration, which is in a little less than 2 weeks now. And then we'll potentially see positive regulations, hopefully, which could drive the crypto market higher. But yeah, I don't think it's a prolonged bear market. I think it's some FUD that started this week, and it's some consolidation going on right now.
All right, cool. Ben, your thoughts?
yeah, no, I agree with Nick. Look, we do expect, especially during this time of the year, December, it's the market will become quite quiet, and it happens almost every year. Especially the volatility is simply because it's holiday seasons, and traders are not really trading. So even the team on Bybit side, we can predict that almost every December is going to be very quiet. And kind of things will pick up a bit, I think starting soon, mid-Jan, kind of. And then, we did see some FUD, there was some news about US selling their Bitcoin or something. I didn't verify the news. I'm not sure if it's true or not. But definitely 2025 for me, it's a positive outlook. I guess so far from the Trump administration that the replacement is all signal a good positive towards crypto. And the overall trend, we feel like 2024 is kind of the trigger of the bigger kind of macro level crypto adoption. We start to see institutions, BlackRock and these guys getting into crypto. And really there's more and more regulation coming out. MiCA is out. That means for majority of the world, people can easily get into crypto, changing from real fiat money into crypto. And so I think with that, there's going to be a quite bit of a fuel to adoption, and at least crypto holders and all that is going to increase this year. So I think it's pretty positive from our side. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good, because we were looking at chart at Future Trends. We see that the January thing, when a market can go a little bit on a decline, it seems to be a very common thing. But I want to go into the retail investor mindset, because majority of our audience today, they have not been in crypto for very long. So specifically, why don't we start with Ben first? What are you observing with the retail investors right now? Do you think they're selling, they're capitulating right now, or do you think they're still holding their belief in crypto? What's your thought on this, especially with the new crypto guys that just got into the market?
I think people are kind of in a wait and see approach. We went through this whole meme coin madness where we saw massive inflow of retail. Q4, at least I can share that from Bybit and exchange perspective, Q4 is probably the best performing quarter in the past 5 years. Ever since the existence of Bybit, Q4 was our best performance year in terms of new user acquisition, in terms of trading volume. So I would expect the same. I was talking to some other guys in the industry, like Deribit and these guys. They're having a blast also in Q4. So that's been triggered by this whole Telegram ecosystem. There's a lot more new users coming in through Telegram. There's a lot more new users coming from Solana ecosystem with the meme coins, and these guys coming in, and we start to see that they've been attracted in by some hype, and then they start to find out, by simply converting some of the asset and even holding stablecoins, you can get a yield. So this whole on-chain yield is becoming quite popular from our side. And then you can see these new clients are exploring. So I think we're kind of in this approach, and they see the market is not really pumping, or So I think they're just exploring the products and kind of get used to what crypto is offering. Yeah.
That's interesting. Q4, guys. I think Q4 is where you guys need to highlight it on your calendar. Very important. What Ben just shared just now. Nick, what's your thought? There's a lot of retail investors that just got in when Bitcoin hit 100K, right? Friends who don't believe in crypto a year or two ago started calling me, hey, should I buy Bitcoin now at 100 and 1,000, right? Nick, what's your thought right now? Do you think they're selling, or do you think they really believe in this? We're in the bull right now. What's your thought?
Yeah, the best marketing agent for Bitcoin is its price, right? So the moment it broke the 100K, everyone just flooded in. So I will agree in terms of what we've been seeing in terms of our subscriber growth and, excitement. Q4 was definitely a bumper year, 100%. Obviously, a lot of it potentially of Bitcoin, yes, true, but then also lots of exciting narratives. That's when we started seeing the pickup of the AI narrative, which I'm sure we'll get to in a bit. Yeah, in terms of whether there's capitulation, obviously, if you got in at above 108K and it's your first time buying Bitcoin, and you just, it's your first time you're holding Bitcoin and you don't realize it's a very volatile asset, it moves very quickly. There's cascading liquidations, and it can be quite disconcerting. Whether they'd get forcefully shaken out, I don't think so, at least from most of them people I've been speaking to empirically. You can look at charts, and you can look at things like short-term SOPR ratios on the on-chain analysis and stuff like that to see whether retail new buyers have been selling more. It seems like that on Bitcoin side, but I don't think it's a large-scale capitulation, not at all. I think it's people got in, and then you also have to think about the fact that some people also got in on the ETF front, right? And ETF flows, they've been okay. There haven't been a massive amount of outflows over the past month or so. So I would say some people are taking profits. Obviously, 100K level is a level which long-term holders will take profits. But in terms of retail capitulation, I don't think so. I think they're also still discovering and still learning about it. And, it's the first time you realize that Bitcoin's an incredibly volatile asset to be once bitten, twice shy. And, you'll adjust your risk accordingly.
Cool. Ben, I met you in KL last year. And then I was asking you what narratives to look at in 2024. And then you shared with me your point of views. I thought it was very interesting because coming from an exchange point of view, what are the hot narratives that's happening right now. So I'd love to hear your thoughts right now. What are the narratives, the sectors in the altcoin space that you think have potential to survive or will do well in 2025?
Overall, I feel like everyone is trying to do stablecoin. We get poached by so many people about stablecoin. I think it's probably because of regulation. Singapore is approving stablecoins, Hong Kong, and maybe the US and even Europe. So there's a lot of stablecoin players, and everyone is focusing on giving more yield. So how to give more yield to the users, especially the end users. So we've seen, the success of Ethena. Basically, by holding USDE, you can get almost a 20% yield. And for retail, this is something quite amazing. If you still have money in the bank, let's say $1,000 sitting there, you probably get, 2 to 5%. I don't know what's it like in Malaysia but that's typical range. But on chain, you can get pretty good yield. So by simply holding a stable coin, you can get that. And I feel like the whole space is getting even more competitive. So users will have a lot more choice. Second is I've been traveling quite a bit, and everyone's trying to do a micro strategy. There's a new micro strategy of Japan, Korea, Taiwan, maybe KL, I don't know. But there's someone that's trying to copy the same strategy, the micro strategy, the one strategy, basically using reserves to buy Bitcoin. And that gives, I guess, investors in that market access to kind of multiples through equity, right? So that's the second. In terms of altcoin, look, we've seen the growth and the boom of Telegram and Tong, the ecosystem. And I feel like there's still some players trying to copy the same Notecoin kind of dogs, this type of deal with this tap games in Tong. But we start to see the effect of it is becoming less and less. However, there's new things coming out, I think, in Solana. So I think the space is still driven by innovation for altcoins. It's all about what's the next hype, right? Our prediction is, ecosystem like even WhatsApp, Line, or Kakao, or even Facebook or these guys, they might start to look at Ton and see what they can do in that sense to integrate into crypto, since it's becoming regulated and legalized in most places in the world. So I think that's going to be a huge drive into our space in this year. Yeah.
So it looks like 2025 we have to look at Anna and also Ton, right? How about Nick? Your thoughts, because you meet a lot of projects every single day as well. What do you think will be the top narrative 2025?
So yeah, I'll also agree on the stablecoin front in terms of yield generating stablecoins. And Athena is really one of the most exciting assets, of this last year in terms of the fastest growing USD denominated asset, second fastest protocol to reach 100 million in revenue after Pump.Fun. And it's only after 10 months. So, and they're also integrating with a lot of TradFi products, with their BUIDL fund and USDI. So it's going to be integrating more with traditional finance, which is great. So you bring in on-chain yield to traditional finance shops. In terms of narratives as well, yes, corporate accumulations, I agree with that as well. One other point, though, is not just corporate, it's also nation state potential accumulation. The discussion now is at the point where where governments and central banks are considering accumulating Bitcoin. Some have and some are considering it. From the Czech National Bank recently, we've also had Bhutan, we've had the Swiss National Bank, you've had Russia that said they're going to now hold Bitcoin as well. So this nation state accumulation, this 21st century digital gold rush, which was never thought of before, it's just now is in the public lexicon, which is crazy. So in comes does Bitcoin and stable coins. When it comes to other, altcoin narratives, and those are the most exciting right now, obviously the one that's got most of the mind share right now is definitely got to be the AI agents and the AI agent coins. Now, this is something that everyone's chasing, and I think it's also kind of like a bit of the meme coin metas transferred into the AI coin space, because a lot of the AI coins right now are just meme coins attached to an AI agent. And there's debates between whether these are really utility coins or whether they're just meme coins attached to a narrative. But that doesn't change the fact that the AI agent space is exciting, and obviously all new nascent asset classes within crypto have this excitement to start off with, and then eventually you start getting the real projects with the real utility coming later on. So now it's kind of like the place to find these gems, and a lot of them will go to zero, at least these AI agent meme coins. But those that are building, important infrastructure for the AI agent space, as well as those that have got, the name brand value. Some of those being launched from the Virtuals Launchpad, for example. Those have got a lot of exciting potential.
I love that. Guys, Nick, Ben, thank you so much for being on here, the titans of the industry. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for sharing your experience so honestly and more importantly, so transparently.